Welcome back, my friends. So, the end of chapter 2 saw our heroes covered in goosebumps, cowering in fear, wondering if the thing they could hear was evil laughter coming from Goblin Mountain, or in fact, just their imaginations. Let's find out, shall we? Mr. Gum and the Goblins, Book 3, Chapter 3. Let's start with a little bit of atmospheric music, shall we? In the court of the Goblin King. So let us go now, far, far from the room at the tavern where our heroes sit covered in goosebumps. Stop the music. Far, far from the high street where Martin Laundrette is working on a very secret invention, which probably won't get explained until a bit later. Far, far from the woods on the edge of town where Friday's secret cottage lies hidden. Far, far from Lamonic Bibber, and away we go, over the frozen fields and streams, until we come to a place where the snow falls like Frankenstein's dandruff, and the wind howls like Dracula stubbing his big toe on a coffee table, where the way is hard and steep and twisty, and where no sunlight ever seems to fall. Goblin Mountain! Up, up, the cold, bare mountainside we go, almost to the very top, until we come to a horrible, gaping hole, all ragged and torn from the rock. And there is a terrible din coming from that hole, like nothing ever heard before. For 'tis Goblin Cave, and 'tis ram-packed full of goblins. Big ones, weeny ones, sort of in-between ones, goblins. Bald ones, hairy ones, dirty, great, big, scary ones, goblins. Giant ones, tiny ones, nasty little spiny ones, goblins. Stinky ones, clean ones, not really, they were all stinky, goblins. Let me show you some of the goblins. Okay, so we've got Whippy, Captain Ankles, and Dweezil. We've got Funk Whistle and Oink Balloon. We've got Big Steve, like him, a Livermonk, and Yak Triangle. Goblins. Specs back off, let's get back into it. Yes, wherever you looked, it was tails and spikes and fins and fur and extra arms and knobbly knees and all sorts. One of the goblins even had 2 heads and sat there constantly arguing with himself. No, he didn't. Yes, he did. No, he didn't. Oh, and talk about badly behaved. Those goblins were always up to mischief, scratching and biting, hanging from the ceiling and gobbing on the ones below, cheating at Monopoly, you name it. The only time they ever shut up was when the Goblin King arrived to give his commands. Few more quick illustrations for you. The Goblin King. And there he sat, right in the middle of the chaos, sprawled on a great throne made from a rusty dentist's chair he'd found on the mountainside one afternoon. His eyes were red and bloodshot, and his long, cruel fingers dripped with silver rings he'd stolen off an old-age pensioner, and in his big red beard sat a dark green emerald gleaming nastily. My word, those goblins loved that big fat jewel. "Shiny Fing!" they'd cry whenever it caught the light. "Shiny Fing! Shiny Fing! Shiny Fing!" All their shouting drove the Goblin King crazy, but he had to put up with it. It was part of his job. At the king's side stood his partner in dirt, a shady character known only as Burger Wizard III. Burger Wizard III, He wore a robe made from an old sack which said low-quality pork chops, and he was smoking a pipe full of mud. "Fancy a puff, me old Goblin King?" coughed the Burger Wizard, brandishing the pipe. He's really nice, he lied through another cough. Get lost, Flemmy, replied the Goblin King. Where's me supper? I'm starving me face off here. No problem, said the Burger Wizard, or BW for short. He reached into his filthy robe and pulled out a steaming bunch of chicken entrails. Delicious, growled the Goblin King, swallowing them down whole. Now, I've got important kingy stuff to do. Mighty Goblin Army, he commanded. Tell me your news or I'll give you a Chinese burn. You know, one of those. At this, the captain of the Goblin Army ran forward, his lieutenant at his side. News good, Captain Ankles reported. We attacked an old woman and duffed her up. Who cares about some stupid old woman? Roared the Goblin King. What I wants to know is how's me evil plan coming along? You built that tunnel yet? Nearly finished, squealed the lieutenant, whose name was Oink Balloon. One more day digging, then we're finally there. That's more like it, snorted the Goblin King. Now for a nice long snooze. He closed his eyes, put his feet up, and Shiny Fang! Shiny Fang! Shiny Fang! Screamed the goblins, pointing at the emerald in his beard and jumping up and down like carrot cakes. Shabba me whiskers! These creatures is noisy. Whoever thought leading a goblin army would be such a bother?